Hi, and welcome to the first video I've made to show my process about how I make the watercolor aquarels and collages. So I'm jumping right in with a few time lapses to show how I make the separate pieces I use for the collages. Sometimes I make new ones because I'm just eager to try new materials and test some different ones together. Like here I use inks and watercolors together just to see the effect. Also, sometimes I use old watercolors that I don't really liked and I didn't make the final cut to keep them. But I also don't want to throw them away. So there are interesting pieces sometimes that I can use for the collages. And then I just try to look at these shapes and find what is interesting to make a collage with. Maybe I'll make a separate video about the watercolors. At this point I'm cutting all the pieces I painted just a half an hour ago. Most of them are getting dry, and I just follow the shapes that water made. When some pieces are like this side is a little bit boring, you know, there's not much happening. Sometimes I just add like a little cut to make it a little more moving, exciting. Always just follow the shape. I add indentations, little cuts, twists, so all the shapes are interesting. Even afterwards, when I want to use a piece in my collage, I can still adapt. When the details are very small that you want to cut, it's easy to use a very small scissors and also turn the paper instead of the scissors. For longer shapes you can just twist the scissors, that's no problem. But if you want to cut really small details, it's easy if you move the paper around. It doesn't give as much friction with the paper as this when you move the scissors. You have to have a little patience for this because it takes a while to dry and it takes a while to cut everything, especially if you want special irregular shapes like me. I love organic shapes, as you can tell, and I love that they are all irregular and none of them is comparable to another one. So to make the scraps, I use all kind of paper. I use leftovers from drawing paper. I use leftovers from aquarelle paper. So this is, for example, a leftover from some tests I did on the back. Not obviously not quality paper. So I'm just using these to make new pieces out of them. At this point, all the pieces I made are cut out, and now I gather everything. I keep most of the cuttings in a little box, so it's easy to grab and to check which ones work and which ones don't. So I usually start with one bigger piece. Not always, but sometimes it's easy to have something strong to build on, or something very distinct. So you can also choose something that is very powerful or bright, and keep building on top of that. For the next step, I try to separate the pieces that I think fit together from the pieces that are not really working with what I already have. So here I'm collecting these. I'm not putting them in any order, not yet. I'm just looking at the colors and the shapes, if they would work together in any way. So I don't select on the final shape or the final collage I want to make, I now only check if the structures work together, if the feel of the pieces go together. I make a selection, and that is afterwards the selection I'm going to keep working with. I'm keeping it in the reds, purples, and maybe a little bit of brownish tones, and I think that will be plenty to work with. I'm just waiting for a few more pieces to dry, so I'll be back in a minute. Now I've started to make the first draft of the composition. I have my pieces with me. I also have different kinds of paper, like this toned down grayish, warm gray paper. I'm going to check what this composition is working best on. I also have a beautiful black paper, so you can see that the atmosphere is totally different if you go from the white to the black. Here we have arrived at, I think, the most challenging part of making the collages is really puzzling everything together. So I made a time lapse because no one has the patience or the time to watch me try to make it work for an hour or 2 hours. So this time lapse gives you an idea. You can slow it down if you want. You can scroll through if you are really tired of it. I have some explaining to do because between the time lapse I recorded to make the first composition and the recording of the pasting, I was waiting for one piece still to dry, and I made a composition already with all the pieces I had. And this illustrates beautifully of how flexible you have to be at times when making these collages. Because I cut out this last big part, it had a lot of ink and really had to dry for a long time. And I put it in front of the collage that was already there, and I saw something happening. Before I knew it, the whole collage was rearranged and reshaped because I really liked this kind of heart shape that just came to life without me even trying. It just happened and I love it the way it is. I'm gonna keep it like this and not like in the time-lapse video. At least you got an idea with the time-lapse video how much puzzling is done before a collage is made. And sometimes, like with this last piece, it just comes easy and goes fast. There's no explaining it. You can only try and work and things will come to life as you are working. So now we're going to continue to paste the collage. My preference is always to, if you have a lot of small pieces, use a Prit. This is permanent, but you also have non-permanent Prit roller. This is a very small one. It's easy to take with you. And to put a little bit on the back of the pieces and put them together. So I would, for example, I would take this piece, put a little bit on the back, just enough so it sticks a little bit. That way, just let me find the right composition again. So just enough so it sticks, but you can always take it off even with the permanent one. If you don't leave it on too long, you can still remove it and it will be safe. This collage, it doesn't have that much pieces, so I'm going to start gluing them together without the permanent Prit roller. I do need another paper just to turn the pieces and put the glue on. I use this bookbinder's glue. This is not a really expensive one, but it's specifically to paste paper. Don't use the regular Prit or other glue sticks to paste your collages, because after a while, after a year, it's possible that you open your folder with your collages and all the pieces are separate again because it dries out and it's not made to make things last. Bookbinder's glue really works really well for this because it's made specifically for paper and to never be possible to take apart again. So this is for me a very good glue to use for this. I'm going to prepare the desk a little bit. We're going to continue in a second. As you can see, I prepared my desk a little bit. I put the bookbinder's glue. I took an old brush. Don't use your new brushes to put glue on. A cloth, some fresh water, and also a paper that can be a surface just to collect the residue of the glue. I always work from top to bottom, so I start with the first piece and then the next, and just keeping the composition as close as the first one as possible. I also put a protective paper on top of the black paper to glue this composition because it's a very concentrated composition. On the black paper, I do it as a very last point. So, if it's a collage with a lot of separate pieces, you can work immediately on the good paper. For me, because this is a very one piece that is going in one piece also on the black paper, I want to protect my paper first. I take some glue, and because my glue has already been open for a while, I take a little bit of water to make it a little bit thinner and easier to spread out. Be careful of little chunks that are inside of the glue. And when I'm putting on the glue, I always work from the inside out, so you have a really good coverage of the edges, and that way you also prevent getting glue on the front side of your piece. Of course, don't move the piece because then you get glue all over. It's a little bit messy. I've gotten better over the years, but I still mess up sometimes. It happens. I put the piece lightly on top of the other piece where I want it. I turn it back around and I take the clean side of a cloth and wipe it on top, so everything is really nice and there's no air or bubbles. Then I'm going to check which one was next. I suppose this will be this one. Just a little check. It is a little messy sometimes, so I'll just have to accept it. I'm gonna check the best position. Have a little tap, that way you take the piece with you. And same procedure, you just press the paper and you add a little glue, of course, on the new piece where it should be attached. You see, I already messed up a little bit, more than I should have, but it's okay. Now, next piece, I'm going to check and put already some glue on the back, just to be prepared. You have to be careful with the water you put in the glue, because if you have thin paper and you put too much water, you see the paper already starts curling, but if you put too much, it really curl up, and then you can't glue easily anymore. So you have to be careful. I'm gonna keep these two pieces for last. I'm gonna go for the red one now. Right. Always be careful you don't put the front on the dirty surface. Again, keep it really tight, and if it doesn't stick immediately, you have to keep it down a little bit and it will stick and it will stay there. Just need a little pressure and a little time to absorb the humidity. And for the next step, I'm not sure which one was before and which one was after. I think, yes, now it's time for the gray one. You should take your time to do this because it's not wise to rush. And as I have ADHD, I usually rush even if I don't want to. Which side was it? This one. No process is perfect, so don't be too harsh on yourself when it doesn't work, or if you make a glue spot, or if the paper doesn't stick. You have to, you see, this doesn't stick very well, so I have to add a little glue and be careful that I don't damage my collage. It should work. And we are down to the last piece. But the final step, the pasting of the total collage on the black paper, is not easy because you have to position it immediately in one time. Because if you want to change on the black paper, you see the traces of the glue immediately. So you really have to position on the first attempt really well. Here we go. So the next step is putting the glue all over. And I realize now that I shouldn't have put glue all over the first complete piece, because that's too much. And it was not easy to work with, but well, I was a little distracted by making the video and already put glue on everything, but it doesn't matter. I have to go over it again because it dried up. Don't only glue the sides, but really glue the entire piece. Because if you only put glue on the sides, it will make wrinkles and the air will stay underneath and you won't have an even collage. So I think that's good. I think we have enough, and now you're ready for the final stage. We take away the protective paper and turn around our piece. I'm going to stand up for this so I can really see the position. I really wanted to feel it like a heart, so I'm going to tilt it as the illustration of the hearts always are made. So I think I'm good for this. Now, I don't wipe on the collage itself. I put the protective paper again and use a clean cloth to wipe the paper completely on the surface. If you do it without, you risk taking away the watercolor paint from the collage, so I try to be careful. I've learned some lessons before, so I try to be really careful. And I think we might have the final result. My collage is ready. After this, to dry, I put it below a stack of books. So I put a protective paper and I put a stack of books on top, and I wait until the next day. So it can dry really flat. The water is absorbed by the paper and the protective paper, and it can really dry as a really flat surface. So I hope you like it. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask me. I'm happy to help or happy to answer them. I hope you like the process. It's the first time I made a extended video like this, and well, maybe I'll do more in the future.